Okay, good morning once again, my students. We are still continuing with our lessons on YouTube. We are through with the management functions or the process of management. So we have extensively talked about planning, we have talked about staffing, we have talked about organizing, we have talked about directing, and then we ended last week with controlling. Now remember that when we are talking about directing, we learned about several elements, and one of them was communication. And that is what we are going to do today. So today, by the time we finish with today's lesson, so I said lesson objectives. By the time we finish with today's lesson, you should be able to define communication. What is communication? You should also be able to describe the communication process. Now, in communication, you have the sender, you have the receiver. What goes from the sender or on, from the sender to the receiver? The communication process, you should be able to describe it. Then you should be able to list the elements in the communication process. And not only list them, and you should be able to explain each of the elements. Then, finally for today, you should be able to use a diagram to describe the elements in the communication process. So that is what we are going to do. So what is communication? Now, you are a human being. Can you imagine that if you don't have blood, what will happen? What will happen if there is no blood in you? What will happen? Your guess may be or as good as man. Certainly you will die. You can never live without blood. And let me point to you that communication is the blood of any organization. So it is said that it is the life blood of every organization. That means without communication, an organization cannot exist. You cannot have organization if there is no communication. So what is that communication? Now, communication comes from the Latin word, and I've written two Latin words. The root word has Latin connotation. And the first one is communico. And in Latin, when they say communico, it means to share. So it means that when you say communication, you are sharing something. What are you sharing? You are sharing information. You are sharing ideas. So if you share, you are not, it is not just one person that is giving to another. It's a shared responsibility. Then another Latin word, which is communis. Communis means common. And this one denotes, or this common means that the sender and the receiver should have common understanding. So that is the common. So when it's common understanding, the sender, there's a sender, and there is a receiver. The information moves from this one person, that's the sender, to another person, that is the receiver. And the sender and the receiver should have common understanding. The sender and the receiver should have common understanding. So that is the meaning of the communis, common. And common means the sender and the receiver. So information is sent. So this thing is representing sending the information sent. And that information that is sent should be understood by the receiver. If I ask you to go and buy pen for me, then you came and then you presented pencil, it means that communication did not take place because the two of us did not have common understanding. Whilst I wanted pen, you brought pencil. If I asked you to go and buy football for me, then you returned and then you had brought football boot. That means there was that common understanding was not there. So in communication, there should be common understanding. So in brief, when you say communication, then you are looking at a process where somebody called the sender gives information to another person called the receiver, and the receiver understands. So the key word in communication is the understanding. So it is when the receiver understands the message that is sent to him and give the right reply or feedback, then we say communication has taken place. So in short, when you say communication, it is the transfer of information from one person who is called the sender to another person, that's the receiver, with the information being understood by the receiver. So there is information, and the information is understood. Today, as I stand here and I'm teaching, if after the day you go back and you did not understand all that I taught, it means that communication did not take place. So communication is not just about talking. It's not just about giving information to another person, but it is about giving the information and the information being understood by the receiver. So that is all that communication is about. So what then is effective communication? So effective communication. When you say communication is effective, it means, remember, the concept of effectiveness, we understand it because we have learned about what is meant by effectiveness, what is meant by efficiency, when you say something is effective. So when you say communication is effective or effective communication, then it means, you know, I told you, if I sent you to buy pen and you brought pencil, that means the intended information, the meaning, you did not get the intended meaning. So the intended meaning was not received by the other person. So that it means the communication was not effective. But once you say communication is effective, then all that, if you say it is effective, then there is a sender. So the message is sent. So you sent message. So sent message. Then there is a receiver here. And the receiver got it. The intended meaning is received. The intended meaning is received. So when the intended meaning is received and the person acted accordingly, the person acted in the manner you wanted the person to act, the person gave you the right feedback, then communication took place. After this lesson, I'll give you some questions to answer. There's something that I expect from you. So if you're able to give me the intended meaning, that means we are asked what is communication, and you're able to tell me what communication is. If I ask you to explain the concept of communication and you're able to tell me, then it means that the intended meaning was received by you. That's why you have been able to give me the right feedback. So that is what effective communication is about. It is when the message that is sent to the other person, the person gets the intended meaning. Now, let's move to our next topic, which is communication process. Here, to the concept of process, you understand. When you say something is a process, we have even learned that management is a process. And when you say something is a process, it means it involves series of activities, series of steps. So that means it is a process. So if you say communication is a process, so it means what goes into it, what are the steps, what are the activities involved. And a process will move from one stage to another. So you move from stage 1, you go to stage 2, you go to stage 3, and so on and so forth. So the communication process, remember in communication, 2 parties are involved. We have the sender. Then you have the receiver. Now, so the process has the sender. What does the sender do? The first thing the sender does is that the sender conceives the message. That's the first thing. Well, what does it mean when you say the sender conceives the message? Now, I'm teaching communication today. Whatever I needed to teach you today, I created it. I have to create it. I have to make it. You want to send a letter to your friend in another school. The message should be first conceived. A manager wants to give information to the subordinate. The message should first be created. So when you say conceiving the message, it means the sender creates the ideas. Whatever you want to send must be created first. So that's the first thing. When the sender conceives the message, then the sender again, the next thing the sender does is to encode the message. Encode it. What is the meaning of encoding the message? The message should be put in the language the receiver will understand. Now, as I'm teaching you right now, I'm trying as much as possible to put it in the language you understand. In the language you understand. Now, somebody may be teaching some people the same thing. But the kind of language that, when I say language, I'm not even talking about whether it is French or English or whatever. But even English language, the technicalities involved. I mean, I cannot teach you communication the same way I'll probably teach somebody in class 1. The person will not understand it. So I have to put it, I have to know my audience, the person I'm sending the message to. And then I put it in the way they will understand. So when you create a message, you have to encode it. Then the sender will now select the right communication medium. By what means should the message be sent? That is the third one. By what means? That's the medium. One is medium. If they are more, media. So by what means? Today, as I stand here, by what means am I sending the message to you? Oral. Oral. By oral means. At times we write by written means. You have your book. It is written. After that, you have to go and read your book. It is written. If you are writing, if it's a letter you want somebody who is far to see, you write it. So there are several means you can send information. If a company wants to advertise their product, they decide what means are they going to use. When there is dispute between one manager and another, and it's going to be settled, they should select the right communication medium. You cannot settle dispute through phones or you write letters. No, face to face. You sit down. So and then there should be face to face. Now, when you have interviews, what do you do? What medium do you use to interview people, and so forth? To the means. And as I'm even talking, you see that I'm lifting my hands here, I'm nodding my head, I'm doing this one. All these things I'm communicating. I'm communicating. And that is what they call non-verbal communication. We shall do that one. So you select the right or appropriate communication medium. And so then it has ended with the sender. Now the message now goes to the receiver. So when the receiver gets this receiver, when he gets the message that was encoded by the sender should be decoded by the receiver. So the receiver decodes the message. What does it mean to decode message? The receiver will interpret the message in the way he or she will understand it. That is what is meant by to decode. You translate the message in the form you will understand. So the person decodes it. He translates it in the message the person will understand. Now let me give you a typical example of decoding. You know, one person, another person can write a letter and you will pick it and you will never understand. You will not understand because they have used certain symbols you don't understand. Unless it is decoded, you will never understand. Let me give you another example and you understand it. When heads of states or presidents all over the world, they meet, if you have watched that thing before on TV, you see that there is something that is in their ears. Like you may call it any other thing. But you see that thing, have you asked yourself, what does that thing do? And what is the name of that? They call it decoder. When you say that, decoder, do you know what it does? Now, you know, for example, your president, Nana Akufo-Addo, he may be in China for a conference and he may not understand their language. But that thing they have there, as the person is speaking in French, everybody, it decodes it in the language the person or understand. So that now the person is speaking Chinese, all right, but your president hears it in English language, if that is the one he understands. Another person understands French, and that is what the person receives. So that is what is meant by. So if you understand that one, then when you say the receiver decodes it, so that's what they call decoder. It receives the message and then it decodes it. It puts it in the language the receiver will understand. So the receiver puts it in the language he or she will understand. When the person does that, then the person will now interpret it. So interpretation of the message. What does it mean to interpret a message? When you go to church and the pastor is preaching, at times they say somebody should come. Then they say you should translate. After they say you should interpret. The two are not the same. Translating something, interpreting something are not the same. When you are translating something, if I say, I'm going to school, then you say, Meko school. But when you are interpreting, you are giving meaning to what I said. And the meaning, now, somebody said, look up. What does it mean to you? Let me give you an example. Do you know that there are some people who will say that, hey, this person, be very careful with him. When he says look up, rather look down. If somebody tells you that, what does that mean? If somebody is describing that man, that's, hey, this person, when he says look up, look down. You see, interpretation. Now, communication, we can communicate with our dressing. Somebody, you may dress, and somebody may say that, this girl, she may be a prostitute. This girl may be arrogant. This girl is arrogant. Somebody may look at your dressing and interpret that you are arrogant. Somebody may look at your dressing and interpret that you are this, you are that. Somebody may look at something, some of your non-verbal communication, and then interpret it to mean something. So interpretation. And this point is very, very important because you see, we said that effective communication is when the message that is sent and then is received is understood in the manner the sender intended. So at times you will send a message and then somebody will interpret it wrongly and give, therefore, if the person interprets it wrongly, the person will give you wrong feedback. So interpretation of the message is very, very important. So that is the other one. Then finally, the sender will give you feedback. So that is the communication process. The sender conceives the message. Then, after conceiving the message, he encodes the message. After encoding the message, he selects the right communication medium, and then he sends the message. The receiver receives the information and decodes it. After decoding the message, then he now interprets it. After interpretation, the person gives you feedback. But remember, it's the feedback that will enable you to know whether the message was understood or not. If I sent you to buy me pen and you brought me pens, it means the message was not understood. So there was no communication. And I have done, look at this here. At each point in the communication process, there is noise. There is noise. Now, probably when I said noise now, what you know, as I'm teaching, there is a class going on somewhere. So you may hear some noise elsewhere. So that is what disturbances in the environment. That is what you may know as noise. Yes, that is noise. But in communication, when you say noise, it just goes beyond just the disturbances that you may see. Anything, I said what? Anything that interferes with the communication process is a noise. Now, some of you I'm teaching right now, probably the way I'm dressed may interfere with your understanding. A teacher comes to class, a female teacher, and the way she is dressed, if she's wearing miniskirt and whatever, and the boys, you are already confused in class. And that will interfere with her teachings, and you may not get the information the way she intended, because there will be inattentiveness. And so her dressing is interfering with your learning. It means her dressing is noise. So anything that interferes with the communication process is noise. So yeah, and I did this, look at it, I did this because what I'm saying that the noise can take place here, the noise can take place here, the noise can take place here, it can take place here, it can take place here, it can take place here. So that is the communication process. Now this communication process has certain elements. So we are looking at the elements in the communication process. The elements in the communication process. The first one, you know, the sender. And it is also called source. The sender. Number one, the sender. That is the same as source. So in communication, when you say the source, you mean the sender, where it came from. Then the message itself. The message itself. What is the message? The information to be transmitted. That's the message. The information to be transmitted. Then the channel or transmission. The third one is the channel or the transmission. What is the channel or the transmission? That is the medium that you are using. Whether it is oral, written, or whatever it is, that is the channel or the transmission. Then the next one is the receiver. Another element is the receiver. The one to whom the information was sent. Then we have feedback. The receiver will give you feedback. The reply. So the feedback is the reply that is received. And the reply will let you know whether the information was understood or not. Then we have noise, which I've already explained to you that anything that interferes with the communication process is noise. Now, these elements we can use a diagram to represent it. And anybody can decide to use any diagram. But I'm using this one to show it. So you have the sender, and look at the arrow is pointing to this direction. So you have the sender who sends the message, and the message is sent through a channel, and it goes to the receiver. When the receiver gives the sender feedback. The receiver gives the sender feedback. If it is understood, then that is so. If it is not understood, then the process goes on. I sent you to buy pencil, you went and you bought pen. Okay, you go back to buy the pencil. So that is for that one. So that's the communication process. Now, we are looking at forms of communication. Forms. The key word here is forms of communication. When you say forms of communication, what are we talking about? We are talking about the direction or the channel. So these are the key words here. We are looking at the direction. We are looking at the channel in which the information flows. So when you say the forms of communication, the various channels or the direction in which the information flows. And we have three main channels. Either it is vertical or horizontal or diagonal. So we have the vertical communication, horizontal communication, which is also called lateral communication. Horizontal is also called lateral. And we have diagonal communication. The vertical communication has two types. Either it is upward communication or downward communication. And I'm using this diagram to explain them. What is now, look at it. This diagram, you are familiar with this diagram. The one that is pasted in your classroom. And I should have been gone for that one to do that. So look at the managing director, the general manager, production manager, marketing manager, financial manager. Then you have the quality control officer. You have the plant manager. You have the sales manager. You have the advertising manager, cost accountant, and financial accountant. And this one reports to this one reports to this, and so on and so forth. This one takes instruction from this one, and so on and so forth. Now, what is vertical communication? Now, when you say vertical communication, you see, we said it's the direction, it's the channel through which the information flows, or in which the information flows. So look at this one. If this manager, the general manager, sends information to the marketing manager, that's the direction the information is flowing. And because it is, look at it, it is moving vertically. And then if this marketing manager also sends information to the general manager, it is also moving vertically. So when you say vertical information, then we are looking at the flow of information, either from a superior, remember, the general manager is a superior, to a subordinate, who is a marketing manager, or information that flows from a subordinate to a superior. Two things were said. Vertical communication is the flow of information from either a superior to a subordinate or from a subordinate to a superior. That is what you call vertical communication. And that is why we have two types of vertical communication. The upward, look at it. If something is moving down to the top, it is called, it is moving upward. So when information is sent from a subordinate to a superior, it is called upward communication. But when information is sent from a superior to a subordinate, it is called downward communication. So look at this one. This is the plant manager. If the plant manager sends information to the production manager, it is moving upward, so it is called upward communication. If the production manager sends information to the quality control officer, it is moving downward, so it is called downward communication. So downward communication, upward communication, upward communication, upward communication. So that is what upward and downward communication they are all about. And the two together will give us the vertical communication. So when you are talking about vertical communication, don't only talk about upward. Don't talk about only downward. The two together will give you vertical. And when you say upward communication, that means it is the flow of information from the lower level to the upper level. That means it is moving upward. So upward communication. When you say downward, downward communication from top to down. So, and you give an example, like when the financial manager sends information to the cost accountant, then it is called downward communication. When the cost accountant gives a reply to the financial manager, it is called upward communication. So that is for that one. Then, so now we have looked at this one, and then upward and downward. So now let's look at the uses of the upward communication. This upward communication, its uses. Number one, you know, employees, the lower level, they make suggestions. So it is used in making their suggestions. It is used in making suggestions. You know, you go to some organizations, they have suggestion box where the employee will write something and put in. That is a form of upward communication. Now, another one is giving feedback. When the manager gives you instruction, you are giving feedback, reply to the manager. We use the upward communication. When the manager tells you to give him report, you use upward communication. So when you are giving report, you use upward communication. If you have anything that worries you, that is your grievances. You have grievances. You want them to increase your salaries. You want them to reduce the number of working hours. These are your grievances. So you channel them through upward communication. So that is for upward communication. Now, what are the uses of downward communication? Very simple. Now, remember that it is moving from top to down. So, remember the top level management that you did when you were in school. What they do, they formulate policies. They give the overall objective of the organization. So, and when you are giving the workers those policies, so it is used in sending policies and objectives to the subordinate. Then second one, when there is any dispute, is the superior that settles it. So the downward communication is used in settling disputes or addressing employees' grievances. When they have any grievances, we use it to address it. Now listen, the employee or the subordinate will use it to send. Then the manager will use it to address it. So the key word here is address. He's not using it to send, but to address grievances. Then it is also used to send feedback to employees. You send your grievances to them. Okay, now they want to give you feedback. Whatever you send to us. Okay, you said we should reduce your working hours. From today, instead of working 5 hours, we have reduced it to 4 hours. They have sent you the feedback through downward communication. So that is for that one. Now let's come to horizontal communication. When you say something is horizontal, look at the horizontal. So the same diagram is we are going to use. This is a production manager. This is a market manager. This is a financial manager. They are at the same level. So when managers are at the same level share information, it is called horizontal or lateral communication. So look at the horizontal line. So if a production manager sends information to the marketing manager, or ask the marketing manager how many products they still have, so that they will know whether they should produce or not. Then it is lateral or horizontal communication. If you need money for marketing manager needs money for research, and then he gives that information to the financial manager and blah 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 whatever, that is called lateral communication. So this is lateral, this is lateral, this is lateral, this is lateral. In the same way, all these managers are at the same level. So when they share information between this quality control officer and then this is called lateral, from this to this is lateral, from this to this is lateral. So once they are on the same level, it is called lateral or horizontal communication. And it makes coordination very effective. If you are in your department, you have to coordinate with. It is the lateral communication that will enable the various managers in the various departments to coordinate their activities. So that, for example, the production manager will know the number of items left, so that they will know whether they should continue or not. So that this one will know whether we are supposed to do this or that. So that is for the lateral communication. And I said, or the horizontal. What is the importance of this horizontal communication? What is its importance? Number one, it enables managers to coordinate. We have done coordination. You know what coordination is. And remember, we use 3 key terms: synchronization, harmonization, blending. So the concept of coordination, we have done that one. So you know it. So it enables the various managers, functional managers, to coordinate their activities in the organization, so that they'll be able to achieve the objective of the organization. If managers don't coordinate and everyone does their own thing without recourse to what others are doing, then you may be doing something significant. Other person, so as you be at the top, another person will be here. So, but if you want to achieve a balance, then you have to coordinate your activity so that you all work together towards the attainment of the organizational objective. So that is that. The second one is that it promotes team spirit. So you remember, when you are coordinating, it is not about individualism. We are working together as a team. And remember one of the principles of Henry Fayol, one of his 14 principles, esprit de corps. Esprit de corps. We talk about feeling, team spirit. So there should be team. So it promotes team spirit. Then it increases productivity, because everybody knows what somebody is supposed to do at what time, so that when you finish with yours, have to start by all those counts. So it increases productivity. Horizontal communication increases productivity. Then it checks grapevine. We shall learn about what grapevine is. It is called informal communication. It checks grapevine. Now, let me give you an example and you understand. You know, when you come to school and the school doesn't tell you when you are going on midterms, then you begin to speculate. Then somebody will tell another person that we are going to go on midterm on this day. Another person, you are spreading rumors. You speculate and you spread rumors. That is called grapevine. It means it is unofficial information. So, but if they don't share information directly, then they will seek information elsewhere. That may not be official. So it checks grapevine. Why does it check grapevine? So it says since. So since is giving you the reason. Since it enables them. Who are them? The various managers, functional managers, to discuss matters directly or personally. So that is for that one. Now we are ending with diagonal communication. Very simple. Diagonal. Now when you say something is diagonal, look at it. That is diagonal. This is vertical. And vertical can move. Now this line that I drew here, if you hadn't seen me drawing, how would you have known whether I did it like this or I did it like this? So vertical can move like this or it can move like that. That's why you have upwards and downwards. Then horizontal, this is a horizontal. If you look at this line, this is a horizontal line. So this is horizontal, and you have another name for it. Then diagonal. Look at the diagonal. Have you seen from here to here? this line may seem to be diagonal. That is not it. This line, I can, okay, so let me change it like this. But because this one was here, that's why I did it, but I have to do it straight like this, and straight like this. It's vertical. But look at horizontal, look at this. Have you seen the production manager? You see that this is the production department, but the organization is big, and they think that they should have a quality control officer, they should have a plant manager. So, but the whole department is production department. Now, this is also marketing department. This is a financial department. Now, this manager, quality control officer, directly reports to the production manager. The quality control officer doesn't report to the marketing manager. In the same way, the plant manager reports directly to the production manager. The plant manager does not report directly to the marketing manager. Then you have the sales manager report directly to this, advertising manager report directly to this, and so on and so forth. But look at it. If another day, or if there's a day, and this sales manager sends, for one reason or the other, sends information to the production manager, you know that the two are not in the same department. So when the information is sent from a manager, that is a manager, a lower level manager, not just a manager, and a lower level manager, to another manager on top of him, in a different department, then horizontal communication has taken place. So look at it. Sales manager doesn't have direct reporting relationship with this one. Sales manager has direct reporting relationship. What did I say? Repeat it. Direct reporting relationship with what? With the marketing manager. Now, this is financial accountant. Who doesn't have direct reporting relationship with? I hope you said the finance manager. If you said that one, you are right. Now let's look at the quality control officer. Whom does he have, or she, because equity. So he or she. Now whom does he or she have direct reporting relationship with? Did you say marketing manager? You were wrong. Did you say finance manager? You were wrong. But if you said production manager, you were right. Okay. So if a manager or a subordinate and a manager in a different department communicate, a subordinate and a manager in different department communicate, then it is called horizontal communication. Or if a manager and another a subordinate who do not have direct reporting relationship communicate, it is called diagonal communication. So information from this manager or this subordinate to this superior is called diagonal, because this one and this one, they don't have direct reporting relationship, or they are in different departments. So I talk about two things. Number one, when you say diagonal communication, you are looking at where a subordinate and a manager who do not have direct reporting relationship, they share information, or where a subordinate and a manager in different departments communicate. Then you are looking at diagonal communication, and it is used especially during emergency. During emergency situations, at times you have to, your manager may not be there, they may have to ask you to do something, or they may have to request something from you, and that will be diagonal communication. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are ending today's lesson. Today we talk about what communication is, and we talk about two Latin words. We talk about communico, which means to share. We talk about communis, which means common. And we said, what is that common? We explain what is that common. Then when we finish with that one, we define what communication is, and we define what effective communication is about. And we say effective communication is when the information that is sent is understood in the manner that the sender sent it. Then we talk about the communication process. Then we look at the elements involved in the communication process. We use a diagram to describe it. Then we know who the sender is or who the source is. We know what the message is. We know what the channel is. Then we know what the feedback is, and then we use this diagram to describe it. Then we look at the forms of communication. We say that the forms of communication, we are talking about the channel or the direction in which the information flows. We have looked at the three types, so this one we divided into two. We have used this diagram to explain them. Then we look at the uses of the upward communication, we use the uses of the downward communication. Then we look at the importance of horizontal communication. Then we have also talked about the diagonal communication. This brings us to the end of our lesson today. So now, this is our objective. Look at it. So now, look at answer these questions. What is communication? 2. Describe the communication process. Question 3. With the aid of a diagram, explain the elements in the communication process. 4. What is vertical communication? 5. What is upward communication? 6. What is downward communication? 7. What is horizontal communication? Or what is lateral communication? 7. What is diagonal communication? 8. State any 3 uses of upward communication. State any 4 uses of downward communication. I hope you'll be able to answer these questions. Till we meet again another time. It's bye-bye.